Welcome to Everything Casual, bringing you original football casual videos from the golden era of the 80s and 90s, right up to current day. Football away day stories and historic clashes between football firms. Subscribe so you don't miss out. We upload videos every week. If you enjoy this video and would like to hear more of my stories, please click like and subscribe to be notified of when I release a new story. First of all, I want to clear something up. In the comment section on a couple of my previous videos, some lads have had a bit of a chip at me for saying that sometimes I would take half a knee. That's fine, not a problem. But you've got to remember that on some of these away trips I was just a teenager starting out. I would have already been drinking most of the day with men. Proper senior lads, not kids. That, in itself, would be a challenge, and at that age I would get drunk fairly easily, and that would make me a liability to the lads if we got in a ruck with another crew. Also, remember that in that era I would be coming up against the likes of Millwall, Birmingham, Cardiff, Burnley and so on, but I was just a kid, so I couldn't have had anything more than half a knee. If I would have been off my head and away with the fairies and came up against a mob, I would have got seriously hurt, put in hospital or worse. They would be throwing punches, and I would be standing there like a lemon trying to hug them, and telling them I loved them, and crying out for world peace. Secondly, I'm not here to advocate, promote or brag about how many drugs I did or didn't take. But the half a knee thing was what I was talking about on a match day. On a Saturday night after the game, if I was with my normal friends from school, non-football lads and clubbing, I would go to raves, and I would have, let's just say, a bit more than half a knee. Sorry to go off track, I just wanted to clear that up. Right. QPR away. I loved going to London for away days. The London mobs always looked the best, full of dressers all looking good. It was what our mob strived to be. In my opinion, they set the standards in terms of clothes and style for the rest of the country, but best of all, we would do over a few designer clothes shops in Kensington. I was always a shoplifter. Even from an early age I would go into the town centre with my mates and nick stuff. It started off with action figures from the toy shop, all that kind of thing. It was happy days then because shops in my small town didn't have any security or cameras or the machines that beep and detect barcodes on items when you walk through. It was none of all that for me. It was actually in London when I first got nicked for shoplifting. In central London on a school trip a few years later. I put some aftershave up my sleeve, walked through the door and alarms went off. I had never experienced that before. I didn't know what was happening. I froze on the spot and was flanked down by the manager and his assistant. But this was different from shoplifting. It was more like ransacking, grabbing what clothes you fancied and running out the shop. That's what 3 or 4 of us had done a couple of times before, and it was what we had planned this time. So we all travelled to Euston Station by coach, then got the tube to Kensington. The lads hit the pubs, and 4 of us younger lads made our way to a clothes shop. I won't name the shop, and I don't really want to go into detail on what happened, but let's just say I was the proud new owner of a Aquascutum Mac and a dark blue Lacoste polo shirt. The other lads had a result too. There was a good, confident feeling with the lads when we met back up with them. Out of all the London mobs, we didn't have any fear whatsoever about QPR. We had a decent number of lads that day, and all agreed we could do QPR without any problem. We had done a bit of research and found out they could possibly be in a pub called the Barrow Boy. So the plan was to try and get there undetected, find out if they were in there, run in, clump as many as we could, with the rest of us standing outside. When they run out, we would turn the rest of them over. That was the plan. But, as any lad watching this knows that these plans rarely actually come to fruition, there's always something. Old Bill turn up, the mob are not in the pub, whatever. Going to London is a funny one. There are always mobs around, looking for a row. You can randomly bump into a group at Euston, or one of the tube stations. It happens often. You have the London mobs, but then you have other crews from up north or the Midlands travelling into London. It always reminds me of that film The Warriors, when you're just trying to get home but keep bumping into other gangs. London can be a bit like that. Our lot have had a night like that. We had it off with 2 mobs and handbags with another, before it was quickly broken up by the British Transport Police. Millwall would be the ones back then always patrolling London, hoping to roll over a mob. Anyway, we made our way to Shepherd's Bush. We managed to avoid any interest from the old Bill by the usual methods of separating and splitting up. The instructions from one of the senior lads was for us to all meet up in a pub called the Walkabout. We all got there no problem. Great pub to be fair. Beer flowing as usual, good banter, scarfers singing and playing up, thinking they could take on the world as usual. The Bush Babies had never turned up to ours. We had never had battles with them before. It was the unknown. We didn't know what we were going to get, but we wasn't expecting a big mob. They wasn't in the Barrow Boy, so we made our way to the ground. We got nearer to Loftus Road. You could hear the usual shirts, scarfers, whatever you want to call them, singing loudly as you do when fans walk to any football ground. Our shirts was walking amongst theirs without any problems. Then we heard shouting. We could see scuffles in the distance. Not sure what it was. It wasn't any of our lot, but we walked over to where the noise was coming from. Old Bill was racing about. We got to some large flats just near the ground. Out of nowhere, QPR ran at us. Fair play. It was the usual. Punches were thrown, lasted about 2 minutes. Nobody really landed any proper blows. It was handbags, really. The old Bill flew in, smacking us and separating us. The police made a line between us. Our main lad was trying to get to what I think was their main lad, a senior police officer, repeatedly pushing them both back. But then they charged at each other, and the copper ended up on the floor. We all pulled our lad away before he got nicked. But he did get a clump over the back of the head with a truncheon. Behind the police line we got a good look at the Bush Babies. I will say this now, they are a very underrated mob. I know everyone has a decent turnout at home, but these seem to have a lot of proper lads, not hangers-on or second-tier casuals. I am talking every lad they had looked like a main lad. Dressed well, but I expect that from a London firm. All seemed game, and all of them stood their ground in the brief encounter we just had. Some firms have lads that run to the front of any brawl, but then 80% of them stay in the background, never throw a punch and hide behind other lads, but make it look like they are trying to get to the front of the action. To the Bush Babies' credit, all of them were on the front line throwing punches, nobody hiding. They didn't have huge numbers, but 30 strong on the front line standing your ground. Going toe to toe is just as good as a huge mob, but only a handful prepared to actually be on the front line. And I respected that. It was very much like our crew. Not huge and from a small town, but we would all be on the front line and stand our ground, even if we got turned over. So QPR may not be a Millwall, West Ham or Yid army, but they are decent, have got proper lads, and will have it. So for me, they were underrated. We got into the ground. Loftus Road was noisier than I thought it would be too. Great atmosphere for a small ground. We were put on an upper tier, and throughout the game we taunted them about being a small club in London, doing the wanker signs with our hands and all the usual banter. We all got out the ground, and it was handbags again, nothing major. It kicked off again outside White City Tube Station. It was dark. I don't like fighting when it's dark. I like to see a clear field of vision of what's around me or what's coming my way. There seemed a lot more of them this time. Not sure if another London firm had joined them. I didn't know if they had any allegiances, or whether they had rounded up more troops up from somewhere, but there was definitely more lads. Punches and scuffles all around me. I went for an easier option. I saw a lad hiding behind other people, jumping up and down, encouraging the others. Instead of throwing a punch, I grabbed him around the neck and swung him over. As we were falling, I moved my body to make sure I would land on top of him, but in the process he grabbed my coat. I did land on top of him, but the second we hit the floor, someone booted me in the side of the chest, winded me, then another kick to the ribs. I ignored it and punched the lad I was on top of in the face. I knew if I let him go, it would be game over, as I was winded still. I punched again, then lay on top of him for a few seconds. I kind of used him as a shield just to get my breath back. Some of our lot piled into the lad that had kicked me in the ribs. It was a good row, to be fair. As per the old Bill were on the scene quick, the lad I was fighting got taken away and put in the riot van, so that meant he got nicked. I got lucky, could have easily have been me, although our top lad also got nicked. Our old Bill had wanted him for a long time. He was classed as a high risk, and their old Bill went straight for him. We all got put on the tube. My new aquascutum coat was ripped from the armpit all the way down. I was gutted, but buzzing about the brawl. It's such a great feeling of adrenaline with you. Have it out with another firm in close combat like that. Even more so if you have a one-on-one and come out on top. It's difficult to explain. Football lads will know what I mean. But when I tell other people, they just look at me like I am some sort of alien. But it's addictive. You just have to avoid getting nicked or turned over. Thank you for taking the time to watch my video. If you would like to see more, because I have many more stories to tell, then please like this video and click the subscribe logo in the bottom right of this screen. Thanks again and see you next time. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. If you subscribe, you will be notified when we release a new video. It could be your firm we make a video about next, so don't miss out and hit the subscribe button. You can find me on Facebook or email me if you have a good story to tell. See you next time.